Hey friends, not too long ago I was grocery shopping with my niece, and it's always a lot of fun because I love that a lot of grocery stores will have these like little fake cars. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're like little race cars attached to the front of the shopping cart. And so it's really designed for kids to have more fun. I can't fit in one. I tried, so it's definitely for the kids. But basically, they have a little steering wheel, and I started playing this game with my niece where I just allowed her to take control. So anytime she turned left, I would turn left. She turned right, I would go right. A couple times she wanted us to like bump into an aisle of cereal, and I did it. I didn't knock anything over, but I would just like fake bump into it. And we would go around in circles all the time, and she's just laughing hysterically, just having so much fun. But then eventually the game kind of got old and we needed to get out of there, and more people were showing up. The lines were getting longer, and we needed to go home and have dinner. And so eventually we got to a point where she turned left and I had to go right. It was time for me to start filling up the cart. She was really confused. She was like looking around, looking at her steering wheel, and trying to figure out why she wasn't able to control things anymore. But again, I had a plan, and I needed to get us out of there, and I needed to feed her. Because if we were going according to her plan, we would have ran into things all day long, and we would have never had food, which is why we showed up there to begin with. Speaking of plans, there's this Bible verse. You've probably heard it. It's a really, really popular one, but I think sometimes we miss the point. And that verse is Jeremiah 29:11 that says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and to not harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." And we hear that and we think, oh, that's awesome. Like God has this plan for us. And we start twisting it a little bit, I think, in our head because we hear hope and joy and plans to prosper, which is great. But I think sometimes we convince ourselves that that verse says, "For I know the plans you have for you, declares the Lord." But that's not what the verse says. It says that God has a plan for us. And I think just like my niece who's trying to turn the wheel, trying to fight the direction, I think that we do that in our lives so many times. And I've been reflecting on this a lot recently. This isn't just with kids either. There's a really popular, well, there was in like the 90s, a really popular bumper sticker that said, "Jesus is my co-pilot." And people would put this on the back of their cars. I always thought it was kind of a weird expression. And I know what they're saying is like, Jesus goes everywhere with me, which is true, and that's great. But calling him your co-pilot seemed a little backwards, right? I think sometimes we're happy having Jesus come along for the ride. Or sometimes if he starts to push us in a direction, we want Jesus to sit in the back seat. But if we truly had faith and if we were truly open to God's plan, we would be handing him the keys and saying, "God, wherever you want to go, I'm going along too." But we don't do that. We want to turn left when he wants us to go right. And I've been asking myself, why do I do this? And I think if I'm honest with you guys, it comes from a place of fear. It's because somehow I've convinced myself that my plan for my life is better than God's plan for me. Or I'm scared that he's not going to work things out. Or I see injustices in the world and I think, well, I don't know when God is going to take care of that. And so I try and do it myself. I've learned over the years that the more you feed something, the greater it will grow. And if you feed your faith, that is going to continue to grow. But if you feed your fears, those are going to grow too. I have a friend who spends a lot of time on WebMD, and she's constantly thinking that she has something that's going to kill her. Not too long ago, she told me she had a really bad headache. And she had done all this research and she said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have brain cancer. And then eventually, and this was after hours and hours online, her headache went away. And then time went by and she had her physical and she found out she was okay. But those lingering feelings, that anxiousness was still there because she had spent so much time feeding that instead of feeding her prayer life. And I'm not judging her because I've done the exact same thing. I've had to ask myself, in light of everything going on in the world, have I spent more time with God or with Google? And sometimes the answer is I've spent more time online trying to read what experts are saying, trying to figure out what politicians are going to do, trying to reblog things. And the truth is, though we are called to pray for our leaders, absolutely, and true wisdom we learn in Proverbs is learning from people smarter than us, absolutely. But if we're not starting at a place where we're going to God first, then that's us trying to control things or allow other people to control things without realizing who's really in control. There's this verse in the New Testament, in the book of John 14, where Jesus is talking to his disciples, and they're scared of what's going on. This is kind of towards the end of his life. And Jesus says to them, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." This is coming from Jesus. He's saying what he's giving to them, not what they're going to find in the world or in themselves. It's not trying to control things, but it's once we let go of trying to control that will, once we get to a place where we want to partner with God, it's like sometimes following God feels like going to work with your parents, going to work with your dad, right? You are doing God's will on this earth, and it's so amazing that he allows us to get to be a part of that. And so instead of trying to fight him and go left when he wants to go right, that's my encouragement to us, is to start at a place where we're going to God with our fears. We're releasing control and we're saying, "God, where do you want to go? And how can I join you on your mission, on your journey?" So that's my encouragement to us. I would love to hear what you guys think. I would love to encourage you to continue feeding your faith and not your fears. We'll continue this conversation later this week. But I love you. I hope you guys are well. I'm praying for you guys. Please pray for me and the leaders too during this time. And I can't wait until we can one day, hopefully soon, God willing, one day God's plan will be for us to meet again soon in person. Love you guys. Stay safe. Bye.